Hey guys, welcome to the Carl Jackson Show, your daily dose of objective truth in a world of confusion and lies. Lots of crime happening. Crime seems to be on the rise. It's in our face. It's in the news. Obviously, you had the New York City massacre that occurred. You had the Cincinnati. Some are calling it a brawl. I feel like it was a straight up attack or attempted murder on a white couple. We'll get into that. Also, you had the story of the gentleman that held a guy that was stabbed 11 people inside of I believe, a grocery store, if I'm not mistaken. And he was held up at gunpoint by a Marine veteran and a concealed weapons carrier. So I want to get into that. There was also a shooting in Reno, Nevada at a casino. And so I couldn't think of anyone better to bring on than my friend, Dr. Currie Myers, America's leading criminologist. Doc, welcome back to the show. And I honestly feel like every time I talk to you, I'm like, well, Doc, the next time something crazy happens, I'm going to have you back on. And I'm starting to feel like this is almost a weekly thing.
Well, it's always a joy to be on, but man, it's been a tough couple of weeks with the violence out there. So, like I said, it's always a pleasure to be on, but unfortunately, I come on when there's problems we want to talk about, right?
This is true. It's a great relationship, but it's semi-morbid, Doc. No, I'm just kidding. All right, so listen, let's get straight to this. I want to get to the New York City shooting. Obviously, that's big in the news. People are ignoring the case that occurred in Michigan. I do want to make sure that we talk about that. Cincinnati as well. But there are some great implications when it comes to this New York City massacre that we saw the other day. I know that you've written a Substack on it. I was reading through it earlier, so make sure you guys check out Dr. Currie Myers, CurrieMyers .substack.com. And also, you're a radio host now, Doc. Podcaster, radio host. Congratulations.
Yeah, I have a new show. I have a podcast called America's Criminologist with Dr. Currie Myers. I send it out on every Friday on my Substack, and it's linked up to Spotify. But I had a radio station that I have appeared on quite a few times, and the GM reached out and said, we'd like to offer you a hour show. It's at 1 p.m. on the Pacific time, and it's right after the Dave Ramsey show and right before the Kevin McCullough show. So it's hopefully I won't mess it up. There's still going to be listeners. But I'm excited about it. This is a great opportunity. And, thanks to people like you that have given me a chance to come on and speak. And, this, has led to, developing something myself, and we'll see how it works.
Hey, man, it's going to work out. So congratulations. I know you're on in the Inland Empire, or at least that's where the station is. Massive audience there. Dave Ramsey, listen, what is he, one or two? The top radio hosts in the nation. Kevin McCullough, a friend of mine as well. Good guy. Great radio show. You'll do well. You'll fit in well. So congratulations to you, Doc. Okay, so let's get right into this, because you wrote about this New York City case, and obviously you had this murderer, and I know that he had some mental issues. We'll get into that as well. But honestly, you wrote about, I love the way that you framed it, New York's Midtown tragedy. And you talked about it from a perspective that many of us, obviously civilians, don't necessarily think of. And that's the breakdown of, honestly, the police infrastructure there. I mean, New Yorkers, in my opinion, are becoming sitting ducks. You have I think 5,000 or 7,000 fewer police officers than you should have. And I hate to say this. I know everyone gives kudos to the New York Police Department for being the best police department in the entire United States of America. But I got to be honest with you, Doc. I harken back to the days where Mayor de Blasio was in that office, and we were literally watching on television police officers having milkshakes thrown at them, water thrown at them, water balloons, and they couldn't do anything about it. And so now you have this massacre that occurs. And obviously, listen, the shooter is responsible himself. But just talk to us a little bit about what you wrote in your Substack and give us your general take on this case in New York City.
Well, thank you. I like to talk about things that maybe other people aren't thinking of when these kind of events occur. And that was the genesis behind writing this particular. It's certainly a tragedy that occurred, and my heart goes out to the four victims that were killed by this assailant. One of them being a New York City police officer. But if you look past some of that to understand where we are and why we have there, let's first of all look at the shooting itself. In reality, and we've talked about this before on your show, that the only true way to mitigate these kinds of crimes in a free society is to have a deterrence presence, right? It has to have a strong police department, and or you've got to have a well-armed citizenry. There's a lot of times, like we saw recently just in the Michigan case, that a well-armed citizenry takes the place of a law enforcement officer because there's more of us than police officers. And the other thing is having what's called crime prevention through environmental design, which I'm a CPTED practitioner. I have been for numerous years. And that's really looking at developing the built environment, which reduces the possibility of opportunistic crime and limit the perception of crime. So there's things that you can do to prevent crime in a neighborhood. The way you build a facility, the way you have access control, who can come in, who can come out, all those kinds of things. And then last but not least, you have to have legislation that actually protects the citizenry instead of enabling the criminal. Well, New York City doesn't have any of those things anymore, Carl. That's wow. One of the most significant issues. Now, despite that, NYPD is still a great department. I've had the police chief on my show before, and I've talked to him, and he does an amazing job in New York City. And I'm not talking about the police officers in the field that are trying to take care of business. They're doing the best they can. But at one time, the New York City Police Department had 40,000 police officers. And you just said earlier, that's during the height of the Rudy Giuliani era when he was mayor, and they had what was called CompStat policing, which means evidence-based policing. They took data and used resources and labor resources to go fight crime in a particular area. Presently in New York City, there's only about 33,000 police officers. Now, that may sound like a lot, and it is a lot, but this is New York City, one of the largest cities in the world, and having a reduction of 7,000 officers from 2000 to today is significant. And we know it's had an effect because we are actually seeing response times being delayed significantly. So the average emergency response time, Carl, in New York City is 22% higher than it's ever been. That means it takes longer for police officers to respond to an incident. And serious calls that aren't, there's different triage of cases, but the real serious calls is 45% slower than what it's been in the past. Even non-critical calls are slower than they ever been. That's not inefficiency. It's a ticking clock that's running, and particularly involves life or death issues. And the lack of police officers is a direct result. And I haven't even talked about the lack of specialized units. They completely gutted the detective bureau. It shrunk from 7,000 to about 5,000. And so you put these things together. Yep. Go ahead. Sorry.
Before you go on there, I want to circle back to the slower response time. Slower response times. We just have 2 minutes left in this block. If you can stick with me for another block or two, honestly, because I got a lot that I'd like to ask you. All right, but okay. So I just want people to sit and fathom a slower response time. Doc, and you can confirm this. I believe I heard on another show just the other day, Oakland 911 response times are approximately averaging about 20 minutes. That's a 911 call. Actually, I take that back. It's even longer than that. I forget what the number was so huge. It was jaw dropping. You have to have an armed citizenry. You have to have more police officers, or this is, I mean, can you imagine if you're the victim of a crime? Now, honestly, I've been the victim of a crime. I've also been a criminal. So I've been, I've been on both, but I've been a victim of a crime as well. I
Right.
can't imagine having such a slow response time. New Yorkers, you got to wake up to this. I think, I don't think we can go by this quickly, Doc. People are not safe. You're not safe in New York City if you don't have enough law enforcement on the ground to be able to, and all they do is respond. I mean, I'm thankful for law enforcement officers. I'm thankful for people like Dr. Currie Myers that put his life on the line. But the truth of the matter is, what police officers do is they react, they respond. And if there's no deterrence where criminals don't even have to be scared that there's going to be a quick response time, you can get away with murder. Literally, only 20 seconds, Doc.
Well, we're seeing less police officers on the street. The defund movement that occurred 5 years ago, has had significant impacts, and we're suffering the ramifications now.
Oh, man. I'm speaking to Dr. Currie Myers. Make sure you check out his Substack, drcurriemyers.substack.com. We'll be back with more. Hey, Carl Jackson here for MyPillow. A major retail chain just canceled a massive order, leaving MyPillow with an overstock of classic MyPillows. Now it's your gain. For a limited time, MyPillow is offering their entire classic collection at true wholesale prices. Get a standard MyPillow for just $19.98. If you want more, you can upgrade to a queen size for $24.98, a king size for $29.98, snag body pillows for just $39.98, and versatile multi-use pillows for just $12.98. All you have to do is go to mypillow.com, use the promo code Carl, C-A-R-L, I don't spell it like the communists, or call 800-858-0263 to score these amazing deals. Plus, when your order totals $75 or more, you'll receive $100 in free digital gifts. No strings attached. That's right. Premium pillows at unbeatable prices and bonus gifts to top it all off. All you have to do is go to mypillow.com, promo code Carl, or call 800-858-0263, promo code Carl. All right, welcome back to the Carl Jackson Show, your daily dose of objective truth and a world of confusion and lies. Please don't forget to subscribe to our podcast wherever you go to get your podcast, The Carl Jackson Show. YouTube and Rumble. Guys, we're trying to build our numbers on YouTube and Rumble. If you can help us out, we're trying to get to the 10,000 mark, so help us get there, por favor. All right, so The Carl Jackson Show on YouTube. We would sincerely appreciate that. Also on Rumble, again, wherever you go to get your podcast, Salem Podcast Network, so on, etc. The Carl Jackson Show, X, Instagram, and Facebook at Carl Jackson Show, at The Carl Jackson Show. And please check out Dr. Currie Myers. If you want to know a guy that knows the ins and out of criminology, Dr. Currie Myers, also a professor at Benedictine College, is the guy that you want to listen to. I mean, he's been a sheriff of one of the largest counties in the entire Midwest, entire United States, entire Midwest, Doc.
Midwest. Yep, Midwest.
Midwest. I mean, he's been undercover. He's been in some of the most surreal positions in law enforcement, everything from federal to state trooper, so county. So you want to make sure that this guy knows what he's talking about. And I'm telling you, he has been in some crazy situations. So you're going to love listening to him on radio now. Again, congratulations, Doc. You can listen to his podcast. You can read his stuff on Substack. And honestly, he helps you to think like a law enforcement officer and like a detective, honestly, too. Some of the things that might not come to mind for the average citizen, American citizen, that, you know, either you've witnessed a crime, perhaps you've been a victim to a crime, perhaps you've just watched a crime take place on television. But somebody that can break it down systematically. Dr. Currie Myers is a guy that you want to listen to. You know who else I love, Doc? I love listening to you and that guy on, I think his name is Paul Morrow or something like that.
Paul Morrow. I've had Paul on my show.
Have you?
Yeah. He is a good guy. He's coming back again for my new show because it's going to be an hour long, be able to spend more time. He does agree. He's on Fox News. He's somebody that's on Fox News, does a great job. He has a law degree. and he was the commander of their intel unit for many, many years, but very, very knowledgeable
Okay.
man.
Okay, now that makes sense. I didn't realize that he had a law degree, but it's funny when I hear him, I'm like, dude,
Mm-hmm.
between Doc and this guy, man, if you guys had a show together, it would be good Lord. It would be absolutely insane. You guys are very knowledgeable, so I love it. But make sure you check out Dr. Currie Myers. Let's go right back to New York City, and let's talk about the shooter himself, Doc, and the fact that I mean this guy just walked through the street, travels from Nevada, and I understand. Okay, so he got a firearm. He was mentally ill. I get all that. I'm not trying to minimize any of that because I think that is obviously extremely important. The police have to do their work. They have to understand what happened from get to go. I completely get that. But Doc, when I see now, it's just a still. I haven't seen video. All I've seen is a still photo with this guy, confident, calm, with and I guess it was an AR-15, at least platform that he was holding, walking down the street of New York City like nothing. I couldn't help but to think, no one's going to stop him. I mean, that was. Am I off base here? I mean, again, I didn't see video, so maybe that was a short walk. But I mean, from the picture that I saw, Doc, I mean, the guy is just strolling, kind of doing his thing. No one around.
Yeah, it's plus he double parked and got out, double parked and then walked. But he walked a good block. Well, maybe not a block, but a half block. He knew where he was going. He's actually, that we've now learned, he was trying to target the NFL
Right.
office that's located in that building. He just took the wrong floor, got discombobulated and took the wrong floor, and ended up similar to what occurred to me in the 1993 federal building shootout and bombing incident that I was in. The killer actually took the wrong floor. He wanted to come to the floor where the U.S. Attorney's office, where I happened to be, and he missed it and went to the clerk's office instead.
Wow.
And unfortunately, shot two people there. It was similar circumstances in this case. Well, not similar. It wasn't nearly as bad, but this case is a reflection of that. And I look at this case more of a mission oriented or a spree killing with displacement. He did have a mission, and so you can tell by his attitude that he was mission driven. And had confidence. He had thought about it, planned it out. He had gone from Nevada all the way to New York City, I think in less than 36 hours. When you look at that, that's a significant trip to be able to do.
Yes, it is.
So they've been able to track some of those things. I think gas receipts from credit card expenditures. You're going to look at cell phone pings. You're going to look at it, did he use social media, all those kinds of things to be able to turn him. But I also wrote a Substack recently on the increase of killers that actually have no modus operandi. They just end up wanting to go conduct mayhem. And it goes back to the book I wrote, The Advent of Feral Man, where we're seeing a different type of criminal archetype that really doesn't need a motive. The motive is, I just want to kill. I just want to harm. And that's a deep, dark place, almost like the dark tetrads from a psychological point of view. And again, I am convinced that the three pillars of society that's most important is faith, family, and formation. And if you don't have those three things in check, then it's easier for you to be turned to the dark side of life and situations. And all these things are just fomented and festered through things like the internet and the social contagions that we're seeing in today's lifespan. So there's more of these things going on because we have more people that probably have mental illness that's not being treated. I think mental health treatment in this country has largely been an enabling thing and not a treatment thing. You want to be a transgender, we're going to enable that. Everything's about victimhood as opposed to dealing with the situation. So I think those are the things that we're seeing. And to answer your question, if you're so desensitized, if you're a New York City resident and you see crime around you all the time, if you go to New York City and you spend time with a New York City resident, they're going to tell you, walk down the street and don't pay attention to anybody. Don't look people in the eye. Don't say anything to them, because that's how you stay safe. The minute you engage somebody from a situationally aware point of view, you could be harmed because there's crazy people walking the streets. And I think they get so desensitized that they go, I'm not paying attention to what's going on in the surroundings about me. You couple that, Carl, with the fact that we have a reduction in police forces in the United States and in New York City, which means there could have been an officer maybe that would have noticed the double parking, maybe would have noticed him getting out of the car and walking through it. Those are the things that we don't know. But when you have 7,000, 8,000 less police officers than you had before, then that there's going to be a hole somewhere that's going to occur.
Doc, I got to say this, and listen, feel free to check me. But I just got to be blunt. As tragic as this shooting is, I don't think it's, how do I put this? It's a major story, but I don't think it's the major story. And if that makes any sense, I think what you've written about is the major story, because I just think we're going to see this all the time. Not necessarily a guy targeting the NFL building and he gets the wrong building, and sadly, four people were murdered, including a NYPD officer that had two kids, one on the way, a mother, a brother. I mean, just sad all around. I mean, just a horrible story. But I just think what's got to be addressed is the infrastructure, is the lack of law enforcement. And honestly, Doc, I see a lot of these cases that are played out on television, and it kind of annoys me because I think of the court process later, and I'm like, not necessarily in this particular case, but I'm like, who can get a fair trial? But the biggest thing that I'm concerned about is you talked about now, and you're seeing an increase of murderers that don't have to have a motive to murder, or I'm even concerned, Doc. You mentioned earlier about this city councilman before it came on that was set on fire. Who knows if it was because of his position or whatever it may be. I just think we're going to see more people getting attacked for what you say. There's just hey, I don't need a motive. Or some people are going to get so frustrated, whether it's political motivation or whatever, they feel like, hey, I can just murder somebody. No big deal. I'm sorry, Doc. I only left you with 20 seconds. So we got to come back on the other side.
Yeah,
here.
Well, I mean, you hit the nail on the head, because the shooting in Lake Tahoe is a perfect example of no motive right now.
All right. Again, I'm speaking to Dr. Currie Myers. Check out his Substack, drcurriemyers.substack.com. We'll be back with more after the break. So many more violent issues to talk about. All right. Back with my guest, Dr. Currie Myers. Again, check him out, drcurriemyers.substack.com, drcurriemyers.substack.com. Doc, I just want to continue where we were in New York City. I just feel like, listen, if New York City residents are going to become sitting ducks, I mean, to some extent, I feel like they are already. And as tragic as this shooting was, again, without the infrastructure in place, this stuff is going to continuously happen. And then circling back to what you mentioned in the previous segment, the fact that what you're seeing, what you're noticing is you're seeing people that are willing to commit murder nowadays with absolutely no motive at all. So if you're seeing that type of, that type of thing happening in the psyche of some criminals, then it's incumbent upon these cities to make sure that they have a strong law enforcement. That takes me to Mamdani. Let's talk about more. Well, his name is Zoran Mamdani. I've been calling him moron, whatever. But is New York City on a suicide mission? Talk to us about the implications of this. Fewer officers already, slower response times, we haven't gotten to, you were talking about gutted detective units, gutted special units. I want to talk about the implications of that. You talk about the ineffective judicial process that they have in New York City. All of that's been broken down. And now they're thinking about electing a potential mayor that's trying to renege now, trying to roll things back. But we know what's in his heart. He's been saying it for years. This guy is adamantly against police officers, against law enforcement. He backed BLM. He did not back the blue. What are New Yorkers in for if they elect this guy, Doc?
Well, it's going to be, if you look at Detroit, it's going to become Detroit. The main issues that's going to occur is that there's already flight that's going on from people who live in the city. We're already seeing businesses that are in flight. That's going to quadruple if he gets elected. That's going to quadruple because of the fact that no one wants to be associated with have a business in an area where you can't be successful and you can't make any money. And so those are going to leave. Why this is important is economics plays a central role in criminality. And the reason why it plays a central role is if you don't have any businesses, if you don't have any people, then revenues will decrease. No one will be able to live in those neighborhoods except for the people who are poor, who can't afford to move, and the criminals. So all of a sudden you have an escape from New York scenario that's occurring, and you will turn New York City into a desert. There'll be medical deserts. There'll be food deserts. There won't be enough policing to even pay for police officers because revenues will be down so much. There's a chance that even things like Wall Street could leave New York and relocate to different areas. As a matter of fact, Florida is trying to do that right now and get Wall Street to move south. Don't underestimate the fact that these kinds of things, won't happen. And then you throw the lack of policing that's on top of it. At some point, the city cannot afford to have the kind of police department that they should have, which is one of the better ones in the world as a result. And when you have these things, it leads to scary situations. And again, the only people that are going to be there to be able to survive it are the people that are too poor or too aged to be able to move. And they're caught in this chaos that's going to become victims. And then you throw in the fact on top of it, the fact that there's judicial dysfunction in the court system. In 2019, the New York legislature, this is at the state, passed a criminal discovery reform law that has turned out to be a disaster. Prosecutors are buried in paperwork, law enforcement's buried in paperwork, leading to a spike in case dismissals that are up nearly 69%, with a drop in guilty pleas to around 45%. This is actual data. So we're seeing this kind of case because it's so hard. Case dismissals,
69%.
Police officers are busy capturing these people, but there's something like it's a 3-day turnaround to be able to get the discovery, all of the discovery to the defense. Well, very few police departments at that level can have 3 days in order to get everything. I'm talking about copies of body cameras. I'm talking about, they're even to the point that if a police officer drove by the crime scene, they want to have the body cam and the vehicle cam just on the officer that drove by it, and he or she has to write a report, and you got to download the body cam. They want all that information, and they're not able to keep up with all of the paperwork that's necessary to do it. So all these cases are being dropped. So law enforcement
when did this come into place again? This was in 2019.
2019.
This was under de Blasio then.
Well, no, this is New York. This is a state legislature. So the governor's office and the state legislature, but it affects New York City. Yeah. So it affects New York City. Yeah. So it affects New York City. And so that's just another thing on top of the fact that you don't have enough officers. And I can assure you, I know police officers pretty well. They aren't going to work for this kind of administration. You're going to see an exodus of police officers that are going to transfer. If they have 10 years on somewhere, they're going to go to another department in another state or perhaps another city and be able to try to work because No one wants to work in an environment where it's going to be dangerous. You're not able to do the things that you need to do to stay safe, not be able to buy the equipment, not be able to get the training. It's going to be a catastrophe of epic proportions that we're going to see in New York City if this guy gets elected. And at some point, I'm not sure. And here's the other thing. I think I've said this before on your show. His background is such, I'm worried about whether or not he has nefarious actions and plans based on being a communist and based on being a Muslim sympathizer.
Yep. We actually, when you, and I'm glad you brought that up, Doc, we talked about this when I was sitting in for Larry Elder, as a matter of fact. But this guy is obviously a communist. He's also an Islamist. CARE backed his campaign, put $100,000 into his campaign. Muslims are rising up to vote for him, and I know that all Muslims aren't bad, so I'm not saying that. But let's be honest. This guy is an Islamist. This guy has said some things in the past that are totally they don't coincide with the U.S. Constitution. All right, let's put it this way.
I mean, it'll be like London.
Yes. And I'm glad Trump caught that guy out. But yeah, you're absolutely right. I really believe that's what they're trying to do to New York City. And Cuomo should not be in this race. Cuomo needs to get out of this race. I'm so glad that you mentioned that, Doc. But this guy, Cuomo, didn't do a great job of necessarily backing the police either, even though he wasn't de Blasio. He's not Mamdani. So he would be a better option than Mamdani, no doubt about it. But still, de Blasio isn't the greatest. I'm not fond of Eric Adams, but I'd take him over Cuomo. And I'd like to see Sliwa. I just don't know if he has a shot. Real quick here, Doc. 2 minutes left in this block. I'm going to have to, if you can, I need you to stick with me one more segment, because I do have to talk about Cincinnati. I do want to talk about what happened in Michigan. But you mentioned a couple of things that I want you to talk about in the last couple of minutes of this block. The impact of gutted detective units, special units. Talk to us about that, what's happening in New York City.
Well, again, it goes back to the you can defund a police by not technically defunding them, if that makes sense. So what you can do is affect the labor resources and the labor pool, and by ad hoc, you're defunding them. Does that make sense?
Okay.
You're not necessarily pulling. I'm not going to, you can say I'm not going to pull, 50 million out of your budget. But if you're going to reduce labor, you get the 50 million that you're looking for by not technically defunding. And that seems to be what's occurring in most progressive areas across the United States, is they're just delaboring police as opposed to defunding the budgets. And the budgets will say, well, you don't need that much because you have less officers in the ranks. The real problem with that is experienced officers mean so much to us in the public. When you have a 15, 16-year career police officer, that person is just getting to the point. Once you reach about 7 years on, you start to really understand the job. You start to really understand the areas that you're working. You start to really understand the neighborhoods that you particularly work in. Good cops are going to know who the criminals are, because 95% of the time we're dealing with 5% of the people. That's not necessarily rocket science. So those kinds of things. But when you crush a detective bureau and it goes from 7,000 to under 5,000, right now the caseload in New York City for detectives is 500 to 600 cases per detective. And I thought I had a large caseload.
Say that again.
500 to 600 cases per detective is the average.
I remember reading that in your Substack. So honestly, I can't even comprehend that.
It's incredible. Okay. I mean, anything more than 25 would be a lot.
Okay. And then honestly, if you have that much work overload, I mean, you can't help but to basically, in essence, let criminals go. You just cannot take on that workload. All right, guys, listen, more with Dr. Currie Myers on the other side. We've got to get to what's happened in Cincinnati and Michigan. Unfortunately, a lot of crime has taken place. Okay, so now what I want to do is I want to take Dr. Currie Myers right to Cincinnati, Ohio. Obviously, videos went viral. I'm asking you guys, brace yourselves for what you're about to see. I don't even like watching stuff like this. I can barely stomach it. but something has to be done. And I'm not sure exactly what. I mean, actually, I am somewhat sure what's going on in Cincinnati once we listen to the police chief. But first, I want to just remind you of what occurred. Many people are calling it a brawl. I'm calling it an attack. And honestly, what you saw was, and what we saw was a black mob that attacked a white couple and beat them up pretty severely. No one called 911. Out of a crowd of approximately 100, I think one called 911. I did see a lady go try and help out one of the victims on the ground. So we're going to play a little video for you. I just want to warn you, it's graphic here, but let's go ahead and roll it. Cut number 57, por favor, Gabe.
Sleep him again. I got that too. He shouldn't be outside.
And then here's another video. They attack him at sucker punches the guy from behind. Now, there were rumors. Apparently, there were allegedly racial slurs or something like that. I don't even know if that's true or not. Regardless, it doesn't matter. No one should ever be treated like this. In my opinion, this is attempted murder. All right, I can't even watch it. I can't even watch it anymore, Gabe. Let's go ahead and cut it. I want Doc to respond to it. Doc, to me, that looks like attempted murder. I want to get your take on this, and then I want to play the police chief. Police Chief Teresa Worthless should be her last name, but Teresa Thiepke or something like that of Cincinnati. If you wonder why you're seeing violence like that, anyway, I'm riled up here now, Doc. So let me just let you respond to what you just saw, what you witnessed.
Well, I'm sorry I keep referring to this, but it's feral. It's feral people. It's people with no understanding of civility, of how society is supposed to work. It's a level of dysfunction that is alarming, and we're seeing it more and more. This isn't just a fight. This actually is a serious aggravated battery in which people could have. I've seen people killed in lesser incidents. I mean, all it takes is somebody to hit the back of their head against the concrete and they die as a result of that. Or there's people, I have investigated cases where people have been hit and died from just the right angle of getting hit. So it's not an issue that goes without serious concern, especially if I were the police chief. Now, I'm shocked that there wasn't any kind of police response that interceded there for such a long period of time. One would think when you have those kinds of large gatherings that you're going to have police stationed throughout this event. It's my understanding this was a jazz weekend that occurred, and there was many events. So that means that there was probably not just regular law enforcement, but even law enforcement working off duty and a heightened presence of security. And they're in the middle of the street. So it's not like it's, in some back alley somewhere, Carl. I mean, this is out in the public expressway. And that lends it to another issue of credibility for the police to be able to respond there. Now, I'm sure that like most urban areas in America today, they don't have the resources and the labor to be able to go out and do what they used to be able to do. But there certainly wasn't any kind of police presence, and that lasted long enough. You think there would have been some law enforcement that would have been able to respond to that.
Now, Doc, just real quick, because you've been a sheriff of one of the largest counties in the Midwest. Hey, okay, so you guys are throwing a jazz concert and back in the day in your neck of the woods in Kansas. How do you set up for something like that as a sheriff to make sure that attacks like that don't occur, or at least things don't get out of hand where it doesn't escalate to that level?
Well, its staging is extremely important. So you have to be very well prepared in advance of where the primary public locations are going to be, and you station personnel in those areas, generally in teams of two, because one's not enough, and in teams of two, and you patrol those areas, and you are aggressive in the enforcement. When I say aggressive, I don't mean physically. I'm talking about you have zero tolerance for behavior that's unacceptable, and you arrest people quickly if it gets out of hand. Because if you're not doing focused deterrence, and you never do, this kind of thing escalates where more and more people get involved. So you have to arrest people pretty quickly. And then once again, we're talking about the blocking of a city street. And so
Right.
there's laws that are against that. So you have to prepare for that. And it's not just your department. I would have invited the sheriff of the county and his resources to come in. I would have invited the Ohio State Patrol to come in and work this area. It's not just you, and it's not just your department. When you have these big events, now I do understand there was 3 or 4 major events in Cincinnati this weekend that this occurred. So I understand there was a lot that was going on, but you know what? Stuff happens, and you have to prepare for it. And so you have to utilize resources from outside, including maybe bringing in security companies to be able to help in some of the areas that just to control flow and traffic flow and urban pedestrian traffic. The other thing is it's difficult to control feral man. So this goes back to, again, I'm pretty positive there probably is a number of people that was involved in this that probably should have been in jail somewhere. And they haven't been in jail because they've had poor prosecution, and they haven't suffered the ramifications of lawlessness. And when you're not suffering the ramifications of lawlessness, guess what, Carl? You're going to be lawless.
Honestly, Doc, I listen. I saw that video. I looked a little further along. I witnessed a lady that was just sucker punched by a guy, knocked out. She hits her head. Thank God. Apparently she's going to be okay. But I want to play a video clip. This is Chief Worthless. And obviously I'm somewhat joking around, but she is worthless. In cut number 58, this lady should not be the chief of police. I don't even think this lady should be a police officer, period. But that is my opinion. Cut number 58, please, Gabe.
Another topic I want to cover real quick. Social media and journalism and the role it plays in this incident. And yes, guys, that's you. That is you. Social media, the post that we've seen, does not depict the entire incident. That is one version of what occurred. At times, social media and mainstream media and their commentaries are a misrepresentation of the circumstances surrounding any given event. What that does, that causes us some difficulties in thoroughly investigating the activity and enforcing the law.
Okay, let's cut this for the sake of time. We have less than 2 minutes left in this block here, Doc. I want to get your response to that. That was one of the dumbest things I think I've ever heard. Social media, it looked like the criminals were the ones that were filming the crime. And honestly, what were we missing? Name calling? I know one of the guys threw a punch initially. You still don't deserve to get beat down by a mob. We have 90 seconds, Doc.
Well, we could spend an hour on this event. This is completely inappropriate for number one, the chief is lecturing people, and it's our job not to go in and lecture people. It's to deliver the facts. I would have said, thank you for the videos that have been taken. We're aggressively enforcing this. These kinds of actions will not be tolerated. We're going to follow up with arrests. We're going to follow up with relying all this to the state prosecutor to make sure that we have charges, and we're not going to tolerate this in this city. And in the future, we're going to plan on we're going to make other arrangements on how things are done and how people conduct themselves, and have zero tolerance for these behaviors. That's what you should do. But this is a DEI hire. This goes back to this person fit a check mark when she was hired. And as a result, you get the kind of lackluster leadership and the inability and the organizational inefficiency of someone who doesn't know what the heck they are doing.
Oh man, honestly, these DEI hires are literally going to get people killed. She's one of them, and in fact, that almost occurred under her watch. Listen, Dr. Currie Myers, we didn't even have time to get to the case in Michigan. Perhaps another time, but I appreciate you joining us. drcurriemyers.substack.com. Thanks for joining us again.